Hey, rock stars, are you ready to power up your team and take your projects to new heights? Meet BizSync Solutions. BizSync Solutions is proudly Indigenous and more than just a staffing agency. They're your go-to partner for building a diverse, skilled, and high-performing team. With over 16 years of experience, they excel at providing staffing solutions across a variety of industries, from skilled trades and project management to executive roles, payroll, and administration. Based in Alberta, they proudly serve businesses Canada-wide, ensuring you have the right talent wherever your projects lead you. Diversity is at the core of BizSync's mission. They're dedicated to creating inclusive environments where every voice is valued, crafting workforces that truly reflect the dynamic industries they support. Whether you're searching for top-notch tradespeople, office professionals, executives, or industry experts, BizSync is here to connect you with both temporary and permanent placements. Their team is with you every step of the way, from pre-project planning and mobilization to procurement, helping you achieve your project goals and drive success. Ready to experience the BizSync difference? Sync up with BizSync Solutions today. Visit www.bizsyncsolutions.ca or call 1-866-442-7962. Thank you, BizSync Solutions, for your support of the Business Development Podcast. Welcome to episode 192 of the Business Development Podcast. And if you have questions regarding personal branding, building your brand in 2025, it is my absolute pleasure to bring you Nat Berman of Brand Built. Stick with us. You are not going to want to miss this episode.
The great Mark Cuban once said, "Business happens over years and years. Value is measured in the total upside of a business relationship, not by how much you squeezed out in any one deal." And we couldn't agree more. This is the Business Development Podcast, based in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and broadcasting to the world. You'll get expert business development advice, tips and experiences, and you'll hear interviews with business owners, CEOs, and business development reps. You'll get actionable advice on how to grow business. Brought to you by Capital Business Development, capitalbd.ca. Let's do it. Welcome to the Business Development Podcast. And now your expert host, Kelly Kennedy.
Hello, welcome to episode 192 of the Business Development Podcast. And on today's expert guest interview, I bring you a coaching rock star, Nat Berman. Nat is a trailblazer in the digital media landscape, renowned for his entrepreneurial spirit and relentless drive to forge his own path. In 2007, dissatisfied with traditional employment and driven by a desire for independence, Nat discovered a blogging platform that revolutionized his career. Within 6 months, he had left his corporate job to embark on a new journey that would see him build a digital empire. Over 17 years, Nat cultivated a portfolio of 25 websites across diverse verticals, attracting millions of visitors monthly and generating substantial profits, all without ever taking on investment capital. His success is a testament to his strategic acumen, innovative mindset, and unwavering commitment to excellence. Today, Nat leverages his extensive experience to empower others through his proven ISE, Identify, Strategize, and Execute method. As the co-founder of Brand Built and the CEO of Uncoached Corp, he helps individuals and businesses grow their brands, attract clients, and expand their networks. Nat's method is not just a strategy, but a transformative approach to achieving holistic success, financial prosperity, improved health, and stronger personal connections. With his dynamic coaching and mentorship, Nat Berman is not just building businesses. He is igniting revolutions in personal and professional development. The journey from quitting a job to creating a digital media empire encapsulates the essence of Nat's philosophy: seize control, break boundaries, and redefine success on your own terms. Nat, it's an honor to have you on the show today.
That was the best introduction I've ever got, bar none. Not even close. Not even close.
Dude, I've been excited about this interview since we chatted back in March. In March, we had our first meeting together, and I was like, I can't wait to do this. And it is now July 28th. After this episode, I'm heading on Canada Day weekend vacation. So I appreciate you holding in there and coming to this today.
Sure thing, man. It's June 28th, not July. Come on, man. We still got another
June
month.
28th. Oh my goodness, June 28th. Holy cow. Yeah,
Don't
I'm
take
living
away
in the
my
future,
summer.
dude. Nat, it's an honor to have you on, dude. You know, I've been following you for quite some time on LinkedIn, and your personal branding strategy is on point, my friend. It is amazing. The engagement that you get on there blows my mind. And, you know, I think in 2023, I said it was like the age of AI. And I feel like 2024, the trend is personal branding. That's what I'm seeing coming up all over the place. And dude, you've been doing it. You've been killing it forever. And so, you know, we have some amazing people to come on and chat about this. But today I'm really excited because there's a lot of people who have big followings. There are not a lot of people who get the engagement on those followings that you do. And so I look forward to chatting with you today, the man of 1,000 t-shirts. And we're going to chat about that too. But yeah, man, how did you end up on this journey? Who is Nat Berman?
I guess LinkedIn would be the appropriate sort of origin story, right? Basically, when COVID hit, right, everybody was bored, sitting around, not really sure what to do. I had a lot of experience with my sites in terms of growing a community, not like a literal one where you have, you know, some kind of a website, but and this probably dates me a little bit, but a lot of people might remember a website by the name of digg.com, digg.com, which was basically a much more popular version at the time of Reddit. And everybody now knows Reddit, right? And Digg made a massive mistake in terms of redesigning its website, which kind of put it into the ground. But there was a time when Digg would just like pummel people's homepages. If you made it to the front page of Digg, you would get like 100,000 visits in a day. And the way to get good at Digg and get your stories noticed was to become what they called a power user. And a power user was someone who basically had a lot of clout on the platform. And how did you get a lot of clout? You would support other users. You would talk to them, build relationships, and become just a really good networker. Now, granted, this was very many years ago. This is 2008, 2009. But I found just incredible similarities between building that network and building one on social media. So years later, what I saw on LinkedIn was, I was like, wow, these, you know, some people, they don't really have like a lot of followers, but what's up with all this engagement? What's up with all the comments and the likes and all that kind of stuff? And so it was late 2019. I decided, okay, well, I'm going to just, let's see how I'm going to do this. So, and I saw a lot of videos on LinkedIn at the time. Videos were big then. So LinkedIn was like TikTok in 2017. Like you could post anything and get like 100,000 views. It was very, very easy. 2019, it was still not incredibly difficult, at least compared to today. So I just started posting videos. Now, I didn't really know the platform very well, so I hired a coach. Lacey Abaki, wherever you are, thanks for helping me out a long time ago. I haven't seen her. She hasn't posted something in over a year. But anyway, so I learned how to build relationships. I learned how to network. I learned how to engage and all that kind of stuff. And I built a following very quickly. It was somewhere between 9 and 12 months. I got up to around 25,000 followers, which was really good and not as good as some other people. Some people were getting insane numbers at that time. And honestly, when I started, it was really just to see if I could do it. At the time, like I said, I didn't really have this MO on the platform other than just to see if I could grow it. And so what wound up happening, which was interesting, was I started to get direct messages coming my way. Do you do coaching? Do you do coaching? You know, can you help me? And that was basically because a lot of the content that I would put out was around being an entrepreneur, growing a business, motivation, a lot of things like that, which is still a central kind of core of what I talk about today. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. You know, I didn't really know how to get clients. I had never become a coach before. It's always been in my blood. Both my parents are therapists. So like, that's a whole nother story. My niece is a therapist. My sister has an MSW. Like, it's a little crazy in my family. And I nearly became one myself. But I just figured I knew how to help people, but I had no idea if I was going to be a good coach or not. all of a sudden I was getting a lot of clients, and I probably maxed out. I probably had around 15 clients at one point, and I was still doing the websites. I hadn't sold my biggest property, which would take place in 2022. And so it was a lot. And quite frankly, I burned out. I literally was like, I don't want to do this right now. I didn't feel like coaching anymore. And so I really slowed down on LinkedIn for a good 2 years. I was early 2019 to early-ish 2021 is when I was doing a lot on LinkedIn. And then I literally was just coasting, right? I would still post some stuff, but a lot of it was repurposed. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with repurposing, but I wasn't putting out much new content. Still had relationships on there, but I didn't really gain a following. It just kind of flatlined at that 25,000 follower mark. 2023 rolls around. I had sold my largest website, and I sort of was under basically zero pressure on the websites. These days, they only take me like 20 minutes a day to update, so it's not a big deal. And so, frankly, I had some time on my hands, and I was like, well, maybe I'll give coaching another shot. And there were a number of reasons for that. I wanted to coach a different type of client, wanted to charge higher rates, and just give it a shot in a different way. And so I get back on LinkedIn. I started doing my normal routine, which was posting a video a day and a text post a day. And I was getting nowhere. It was a whole new world. LinkedIn was very different and a lot harder. And I was pissed and frustrated. And I was like, what the hell? I can't grow on here. Yeah. Why are all these people with 5,000 followers getting all these likes and comments and all this engagement, and I'm not doing shit? And so I reached out to a lot of the old school people that I knew. And frankly, a very large portion of them just, I think, were salty and pissed, just like I was. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, what the hell's going on? I don't deserve this. I have 100,000 followers and I'm getting no engagement. Da, da, da. Well, frankly, the LinkedIn algorithm very much changed, and they started rewarding people who were on the platform, engaging and doing the work, and actually, spitting out really good content. Because back in the day, you could post 2-sentence platitudes with an interesting GIF, and you'd be, you get 100,000 views on your stuff. That just didn't work anymore. And so I talked to people who I knew had been putting in the time on the platform. And one of those people was Luke Matthews. I always like to shout him out because he basically gave me the business. He's like, dude, you're not doing shit. You're not. Your profile's not good. You need a total revamp. Your messaging sucks. Like, he was just very honest with me. I was like, damn, man, I needed to hear that. And he's like, and frankly, I can tell you're just not putting enough time into the platform. I had people telling me I needed to start over, delete my account, all that stuff. And from January of 2023 to July of 2023, I got my ass kicked on LinkedIn. And I was still convinced I could do the same old stuff, even though I was engaging more and I was slowly picking up the pace. Yeah. But I still was not doing that great. And I have the analytics to prove it. When I came back in 2023, it was like 30, 40 likes a post, 30, 40 comments a post, and half of those comments coming from me as a response to other comments. And then January, it was around 100-ish. And I was like, okay, I'm kind of cracking through here, even though it was like a slow build. And then there were two big moments. One was an initial rebrand in July of 2023. And I finally acquiesced and decided to do some slideshows. So I had a designer come up with a theme, and I started doing slideshows, and they performed very, very well. And I was like, screw it. I'm just going to do what other people are doing to get traffic here. And as that grew, I did another rebrand. And of all people, Yasmin Alich was the one who redid my brand, my branding on my my profile banner and all that stuff. And at the time, I was like, I really don't want to do slideshows anymore. So I just went with the t-shirts. Everybody used to always talk about the t-shirts. They always liked the t-shirts. I order 2 every month. It's been something I've been doing for a long time. I just love, pop culture and movies and TV shows and all that. And so what morphed was basically, it was initially me filming videos in the t-shirts back in the 2020. And one of my gimmicks was filming in the freezing cold. I used to film in the snow, and people were like, what are you, insane? I'm like, dude, it's 2 minutes. Not a big deal. Yeah. Even though it was probably not, whatever, not advised. It just turned into selfies. Same deal, sitting in a chair, in a shirt, whatever. And I just felt those were a lot easier. The issue with doing video on LinkedIn, and it may change, is that to really get views on video, you have to accompany it with a lot of text. If you do a one line of text into a video, I still don't think the algorithm really rewards it. And I still think impressions are somewhat limited, but who knows, that may change with the new, TikTok feed and all that stuff. But, as of right now, I've had a nice groove for a good year plus of just doing, a picture of myself and what I hope to be a really good post. And, it just started growing and growing and growing. And what I attribute it to is that all along the entire time, it wasn't just going off and commenting on a zillion posts. It was responding to every comment, and it was building relationships. I built my own engagement list from scratch. Didn't care about influencers. I cared about people who were interested in my content and whose content I was interested in. People who were just good people. And when I look back and I see what I was doing and what we're doing now, I liken it very much to customer service, right? You're just being really good to the customer. It's a little more than that because you are building an actual relationship with somebody. But I tell everybody the same thing. What got things growing and cooking was I always had the mindset, can I get one new really good follower every day? One person, just one. Even if my post gets 30,000 impressions, I just need one out of there to come back every day. And it's not a lot, but it is a lot. It's not easy, right? Like one sounds like nothing, but it's not easy. It's like getting a customer. It's not the easiest thing in the world to do. But if you can, let's say it's 5 days a week, right? If you can just get one a day, you're talking 250 or however many new followers a year. Then all of a sudden, you formed a line at the door, right? And the line at my door starts a little bit before 7 a.m. because everybody knows I post at 7 a.m. So people are like, how does that happen? It's a very Justin Welshian kind of effect where it's like everybody's lining up to comment on your post. They want to be the first one there. I mean, that's up to them. I don't give a shit. They can comment whenever the hell they want. But it tends to work out that way where people are like, oh, Nat posted at 7 a.m. and I want to come in there and I want to comment and I want to support and all that kind of stuff. So it just sort of built upon itself. And like any other business or anything like that, there are waves. I've had posts bomb. I've had posts do really well. I've never had a post go super viral, which is interesting. I've had a post do over 100,000 impressions, I think like twice.
Wow.
That's it. I mean, I know people that have done millions on some posts and so what I have seen is a very slow and steady build. And it's been intentional because I haven't gotten caught up in trends or formats or anything like that. So it's really, if you can just build a dedicated group of people who like what you're doing and you like what they're doing. I know it sounds very, simple or whatever. It is simple. It's just not easy. And that's kind of where I'm at right now with the whole LinkedIn journey. And, as long as it still works out well, I'm going to be on there. It's my platform of choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you talk about essentially the power in the community that you build around it. And like the podcast is the same way, right? Like, just like you, I've had shows that have bombed and I've had shows that have done amazing. And it's consistency over time that creates success, right? It's not one post here or 4 posts here. Or I posted 5 times this week and I'm posting 2 times next week. It's being super consistent and you post every single day. You're up there with your t-shirt and dude, your t-shirts are amazing, by the way. I absolutely love that. That is and it's so funny. I've been part of LinkedIn since, I don't know, and I'm late to the party. 2013, I joined LinkedIn and I was late to the party and didn't know how to use it. I don't think I really started to really use it until 2020, effectively. Yeah. But I've never seen anybody do what you do. And it's crazy. It's a little bit hard to believe because it's just a really helpful, enticing post. You ask for a reshare. You always have something of value in your post and it's you, doing something awesome in a really cool t-shirt. And I'm like, man, Nat has it on point.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Your coaching well paid off. I think, most people wouldn't have ever even thought to do that though. Like I think that's really forward thinking of you as somebody who is an expert coach to say, you know what? LinkedIn is something that there's a lot of experts in, and I got a lot to learn here. And it does make sense to hire a coach. I don't think many people do that.
I think there's some validity to that. Absolutely. And if they do, oftentimes I think they're not thinking about it enough. That's one thing I would definitely say. And the helping out on LinkedIn part wasn't even a part of my coaching. That developed out of demand. So 2023 was all one-to-one. That's all I did. And it was very much business, life coaching type of stuff. Men in their 40s, 50s, I don't know what to do with my life, or I'm miserable in corporate, or, a lot of stories like that. And I would just be helping them navigate. But as I got more and more clients, they were all like, how are you doing this on LinkedIn? What's going on? How are you doing this on LinkedIn? And I had my own coach at the time trying to navigate. I was trying to navigate where I wanted to go with all of this, because frankly, the one-to-one is what burned me out in 2020. And 2023, the same thing was starting to creep up. Even though I had better clients, more money, and that was all cool. I got all those things that I wanted. But frankly, it was a little taxing. And so all of a sudden, this kind of business and branding product was born, where it was basically like, all right, I'm not going to just do typical coaching here. I'm going to help you grow and build your brand and build your business on LinkedIn as well. And then through all of that coaching, then I was able to do a course. Then I was able to open a community. All that kind of stuff followed. And since that time, now my one-to-one is basically zero and the community is full-time. So now instead of one-to-one, it's one-to-many, with the option of, if somebody wants my personal attention a little bit more, yes, they can do that, spend a little more in the community, that kind of thing. But it was just a really interesting progression. And one thing for anybody listening, don't listen. And what I mean by that is everyone and their mother was coming up to me in 2023 telling me I should do this, I should do that, I should do this. You should have a course, you should have a newsletter, you should do all funnel, right? Now, I'm not saying there's no place for a funnel. I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a newsletter. What I am saying is, if you know exactly what you are doing and what your goals are, then the right strategy needs to come from that. And for me personally, I always found that talking to people was always my biggest strength. Building relationships was always my biggest strength. So why not sell that way, right? And it's been a hell of a learning experience growing a community. I went from a 45-minute conversation to close $4,000 a month to a 30-minute conversation to close $195 a month, right? And most people would say I'm out of my mind, right? Why would you do that? The ROI is so terrible, right? No, it's not. Not after a long enough period. It all starts to even out. And that's on me, because I started to let it get to me, right? I started listening to that. And my partner and I, we got to a point where initially we were recruiting everyone ourselves, but then we started selling by chat, like in the DMs, and people would join, but they weren't as heavily invested in the community. And we hit this weird, rocky, like 3-week to 1 month period where we weren't recruiting one-to-one. And then all of a sudden things just really changed when we went back to what got us there. And everything changed when we went from 1 meeting a week to 4. And all of a sudden we're like, this is the stuff that people like. It's the personal attention. It's the coaching. It's all of that. It's not the fact that I have a course. Sure, I got a course, it's a nice little addition, but the main message I guess I'm trying to relay is that, whatever you do, whatever kind of business you're in, if you do something that works, just please continue doing it and just bleed it into the ground until it doesn't work and you have to pivot at some point. But for now, and I know that this is something that you wanted to talk about today in terms of branding, like the bet that I place on myself and my business and my livelihood in the next 10 years is the fact that branding is growing as a way of building a business and relationships. It's growing. I don't suspect it's going anywhere. I think the means by which it's being disseminated and pushed, that's always going to evolve. So LinkedIn ain't what it used to be, and it's not going to be what it is now in 5 years. But I think people getting out there and putting out a message, which is the heart of what branding really is, I don't see that going away anytime soon at all.
No, me neither. Me neither. I think I've seen it coming for a while, right? It's been a slow build, right? Like for me, when I started this podcast, I started it in February of 2023. And I knew by the end of 2022 that I wanted to do something more outward facing, right? Like I was operating my business. I was like you, making a lot of phone calls, getting into a lot of meetings face to face, but was like, okay, something's changing. I either need to do a YouTube, I need to do a podcast, I need to do something that gets me out there. And I loved podcasts at the time. So for me, that was like the obvious thing. But I'll tell you what, I bought all my podcast equipment. I sat it in the corner of my room for almost 2 months. And my fiance pulled me to the side and was like, you're either going to do something with that stuff or you're going to sell it because we need that money. But I was nervous, dude.
Sure.
Like, I was nervous to put myself out there. And I think that that's where a lot of people are. You know, it's not for everybody, but I do think it's the future of business. Like personal brand is going to be a big deal. And I still have days where I struggle with this. You know, episode 3, I almost didn't release episode 3. There was nothing wrong with it, but I didn't like it. And I was in this weird place of like, do I even want to do this? Like, what am I doing with my life? And here we are, right? It's episode 192, and thank God I did. And it was the consistency over time that made this show successful. I released 2 shows a week, Wednesday, Sunday, without fail. I have not missed a single episode. And you know, like you said, not all of the posts hit, not all of the podcasts were hits, right? But over time, they balanced out, and we had lots of wins, and it worked out. But it isn't the one time you do it. It's what are you going to commit to, right?
I agree. I couldn't agree more. I mean, look, we live in a very divided point of view type of culture at this point, where it's like you have a sense of entitlement, right, on one side. And by the way, I'm not the like get off my lawn old man here. Like I think that this generation is full of brilliant people who work their asses off. So let's put that to bed. Every generation has lazy and entitled people, right? Like. But what I will say is there's always a contingent that wants to take a shortcut, that wants to use tools or whatever means necessary to either inflate or speed up the process of any metric, you know, views, impressions, revenue, I mean, you name it. But there's also people that really do understand and believe in the value of building something and doing what it takes to build that. You know, never would I recommend to someone to work 15 hours a day for 5 years, but I sure as hell wouldn't say no to do that for 2 years. And you start optimizing and you start learning and you start using leverage and things like that. So one thing I do see now is and there's opportunity every generation, every decade, whatever you want to call it. I just think there is that opportunity now, but what my narrative is and what I'm trying to push out there constantly is like, put in the work, do the work, whether it's 1 to 2 hours a day or 8 hours a day. I don't care. Do it consistently. The people that come to me that usually want help with LinkedIn, they can't put in the time that I do. I do it full time. This is what I do. I'm on the platform answering DMs, coaching people through chat. It's not like I'm just responding to comments, although that's a shitload of what I have to do. But, you know, and I'll also be the first to tell someone, look, if you have a half hour a day to put into this, you're not going to get a lot out of it. It's just not, it's like, what business works when you put in a half hour a day?
That's right.
What full-time gig can really work on a half an hour a day? Very few. But if you have 1 to 2 hours a day and you can focus and put in strategic work and no shortcuts, no blunders, I personally think you can make a lot of progress in a 6 to 12 month period. That doesn't mean you're making 50 grand a month like a lot of people promise. It means you're making significant progress where you can see the light at the end of the tunnel where you can see, holy shit, if I keep doing this, A, I'm going to not have to work as hard. And B, I'll continue to grow my revenue, grow my influence, grow my network, whatever whatever your goals are. LinkedIn or any other social media platform, it's just a microcosm of the overall world out there of you get a contingent that tells you can do everything and anything you want within 5 minutes. Buy my course, right?
Yeah.
And you also get a small, realistic pocket of people who know what it takes. And that's why my tagline is the business coach who actually runs a business, because that's in my way of saying, like, come on, guys, like, if you haven't really done it, don't call yourself one. And so, and the funny thing is about a lot of social media platforms, which I really like to get out there, because look, I never had the luxury of being like majorly successful. Don't get me wrong. I'm very happy with what I did with the websites. And that was, I guess you could call that successful by conventional means.
Yes.
But I'm not like a baller, right? Like I don't have $100 million in the bank. And the funny thing that I'll always point out, those people aren't on social media. They're not on LinkedIn.
That's right.
And you know what I'm using LinkedIn for? To get to those people someday, to get to that level, not because they're at 100 million, but because the majority of those people know so much, because they're so educated and understand things and have access to stuff that just us folk don't. And so I chose that route. That's the route I've chosen. I've chosen LinkedIn. I've chosen social media to say it's going to get me here. Not fame, not because of fame. And believe me, I could go on and on about fame and metrics. And I've talked to the biggest influencers in the world, all their social media teams. They'll all promise you the moon and stars. And you know what? They might get you the moon and stars as well. A, it's going to cost you a lot of money. 85 grand for 6 months was my last quote, right?
Wow.
Just to grow on Instagram in the way that an influencer would grow or a big celebrity would grow. But what it came down to, and by the way, there's nothing wrong with that either. Like if you want to be famous, if that's your goal, like do it.
Sure.
But when I was approached by these people and I approached them as well to find out about their services, after every conversation, I would kind of take a step back because they all sounded so good, right? Like polished, and here's what we'll do, and here's where your account's going to go, and this is what it does. I always had to step back and ask myself one question. I would say, for what? Why? Like what is the point? What would 1 million followers give me? Right. Mm-hmm. And the reality is it's perfect for a newsletter. It's perfect for a low ticket item, a low ticket product. It's perfect for getting someone in a funnel. It's also perfect for getting famous. But for building a connection, for building a community of like-minded people who respect and support each other, I don't think 1 million followers cultivates that all that well. It certainly doesn't do it as well as me talking to someone just like I'm talking to you right now. And even though it takes time and labor and work, right? Here we are, 5 months in, 6 months in, 164 members. All of a sudden, word of mouth is spreading. All of a sudden, we're starting to get referrals instead of me having to push it. And that to me is so much more valuable, long lasting, sticky, right? And meaningful. Again, I just want to point out, to each their own, man. You want to go out and get 10 million followers and be a traditional influencer and get sponsored deals and all that kind of stuff. That is your right. You have every right to do that, and more power to you. But at this point in my life, I'm 45 years old. I've got a family. It's nice to be recognized, nice to be known for some things, but I could give two shits about being, famous for the sake of being famous. If famous comes as a result of what I'm doing and building, so be it. Cool, wonderful. But, I don't mean to get all deep in shit here, but I feel very strongly about these things. And I think social media is a place that brings out the best and worst in you. And I think it usually brings out the worst in people first, because it's so easy to get caught in that hamster wheel of like, likes and comments and impressions, and I got to grow. But if you know why and what those metrics are really for and how they serve you, it takes a little bit of that pressure off. And then all of a sudden, like, dopamine isn't that big a deal, right? So anyway, there's a way to do it. And there's a way to do it that works. And just, be a person and build relationships and have a real good product and serve your audience, serve your customers. And it's a lot of fundamental stuff, but some of the best in the world, who've done this, I'm starting to understand and realize why they've become so successful. Like the Bezoses of the world, like an obsession with customer service. You look at something like that, or I look up to guys like Warren Buffett. I don't look up to him because he's a billionaire. I look up to him because he loves money, has always loved money, has always loved growing businesses, buying businesses, and he just does that. And that's all he cares about, and he does it better than anybody else. And he's a bit of a higher example, and probably not the greatest one, because I know it's come at the detriment of some relationships in that guy's life, unfortunately. But in terms of a business acumen and laser focus on what you want to do, that's the stuff that I'm so impressed by and enamored with. And hopefully, we can do the same.
Well, I think in a time of like you said, of easy connection, let's call it easy connection, sure. Right? It's easy to follow somebody on LinkedIn. It's easy to follow somebody on Instagram, right? What we're lacking is real connection. And I feel like everybody's out there trying to find it. And it's like, as a species, we've just shot ourselves in the foot, and we've created fake connection, like you said. And, just like you, I respond to everybody who messages us. We respond back. Everybody who comments, we comment back. We try to be real people, right? Everything we talk about on the Business Development Podcast is about being a real, authentic person. We're trying to push people back to, make real connection, make real phone calls, book real face-to-face meetings, and get to know people, because that's what real relationship is built on. And I think as a community, we are suffering in a time of a whole bunch of fake connection, pretending to be connected, if that makes sense.
Couldn't agree more.
It's such a weird paradigm, right? Because it's like we seem to be really okay with that, but it's like what we're really doing is taking time where we need to be creating both. So, I guess the fact is, I was going to ask you, like, most of your posts are getting 1,000 likes, in a lot of cases, 1,000 comments. And I'm just like, dude, like, how in the world are you able to keep up with that and stay sane? Like, that's a job full-time job on its own.
So I am a fast typer. I do. I can think reasonably quick on my toes. I don't use AI. I don't use VA. Never have. I don't plan on it. I'll never say never, right? But I don't plan on AI anytime soon. I do not plan on a VA anytime soon. I can't see myself actually ever using a VA on my LinkedIn account ever. But like I said, never say never. So what I see happening if the account continues to grow is, at some point I'll probably just have to kind of leave some commenters straggling and shit happens. But it's usually that 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. block where it's like very, very busy. And then the rest of the day, it ain't so bad. It's not so bad. It's usually, those first 3 to 4 hours is when you see a lot of comments. And don't forget, half of those comments are mine, right? They're responses. So it's really more like, 500 or whatever. Not that that's small, but
no.
But but I tell everybody the same thing. I'm like, it's a choice. It's a choice. I'm very Gary V, old school. Back when he was growing on Twitter, that was his style. Just mass attention to people and responding. And I just want to touch on what you said about real connection, because it's such a funny thing. I find that, this is an example I always like to use because I just think it's so relevant. Cold calling, right? Everybody hates cold calling. Nobody likes cold calling. Back in the 80s, 90s, whatever, the best way of growing a business really was cold calling. I mean, it was introducing yourself to people. And even though it was tough, I did cold calling early in my career, and I absolutely loathed cold calling. because it's tough. It's scary to talk to someone that you know is probably going to reject you. And I've had my fair share of horrible rejection, funny when you look back stories. Guy told me to jump out of a window, things like that. Oddly enough, I called him back and I said, this is the guy who's jumped out the window. And he was like, don't ever call me again. Because I had to stay sane that day. I remember that. But the thing is that what you just said about fake connection, I find so interesting, because you couldn't really fake it on the phone, right? You can fake it on social media, but you also have an equally as effective, if not better, opportunity to build that relationship through digital media and not a telephone. That's what I love about a LinkedIn or any social media platform that you pick up on. And I'll explain what that means. Anyone who comments on my post, anyone I'm a first connection with, anyone who views my post, or views my profile, or anybody who's following me, I feel very comfortable just saying hello. I'm not necessarily having to pitch them like crazy, right? And yes, I do pitch, and I'll say, I'm running this community. Would you like to learn more? But that doesn't scare me or intimidate me like a cold call would. And so to me, there's just this beautiful new world of relationship building that you can take advantage of, where no's don't bother me at all. Like, I don't give two shits about a no. Who cares?
Yeah.
And you got a billion people on a platform, clearly not a billion or a fit for what I'm doing. But the point is that you have that opportunity. And so this is how I look at someone commenting on my stuff. They could have been doing anything in the entire world at that moment in time, anything, or something else other than what they were doing. And they took that time out to either look at my posts or not even look at my posts. Who knows? Maybe some people are just commenting and they don't know what the hell, I don't care. But they took that time to put that little thing in there. And in this world of zero attention, fake relationships, that to me is as real as it gets. Whether it's an AI generated comment or not, someone chose my account to engage with. And so I have, in my opinion, the right, and not only the right, but the obligation to explore that a little bit further if I see that person's profile might be a potential fit with what I'm doing. Whether that's my business or whether that's personal, doesn't matter. And so to me, there's just this ample opportunity to siphon out folks that might not be a fit or whatever. It's almost like, you know what it's like? It's like internet dating, right? When you think about it, like if you've been on LinkedIn long enough, you can look at a profile and know in 5 seconds, that guy's real or that girl's real. That one's fake. This is bullshit. This one's real. It's like a dating profile. When you used to see someone's picture and be like, that's not really them. I don't buy that. You know what I mean? And like, you can tell when they're embellishing, or like a job title where it's like, it's not really what they do. And so that there's a comfort in that, in the sense that, like, instead of having to go to a bar and cold meet someone, scared of your life and not knowing what you're going to say to that person, you can sort of do a little due diligence and you can see a little bit about that person before. And then finally, when the moment comes and you're talking to that person on a Zoom, it's not in person, but it's close enough. It's pretty damn close. Yep. That person can look at that other person and think to themselves, you know what? You're just like I thought you'd be. And that's a magical moment. And it's a great affirmation of everything that you thought about that person. And sometimes it's even better. Sometimes it's worse. It happens. But what I've seen is that the more people I meet with, face to face, I find it to be very refreshing, because we've had enough dialogue back and forth prior to know that, hey, this will be a pretty cool talk, or I won't be wasting my time here, Yeah.
And
that to me is I'll stress this word, using social media properly instead of letting it use you, right? Which is what most social media does to people. Hell, I get used every day by TikTok, right? I'm scrolling up and down and looking for interesting things to see. And I crawl down all those holes and I get screwed with doom scrolling. But as best as I can help it, I know that I'm using LinkedIn as much as it's using me. And that's a symbiotic relationship, right? It's a good relationship to have. Too many people aren't, but I feel pretty confident in what I'm doing.
Man, I love that. I love that analogy. I've talked to so many people and I've never had that particular one come up. And you're absolutely right. And it's like, how do you change that dynamic from social media using you to having a mutually beneficial relationship with it? Because like you said, me, millions of other people struggling immensely with that relationship. Right? That's why it exists. It exists to take advantage of people like us who have struggled to figure out what to do with it. And I think I'm getting better with it. I'm by no means anywhere close to you. There's lots of people that I talk to who wish they could do more with their socials. Talk to me about the choice that has to be made.
Oh, man. One choice that I made, and this was back in the June of 23 thing, was I made a deliberate choice to not worry about any other social media platform at all other than LinkedIn. And that's still the case to this day. Yes, I have a Twitter account. Yes, I have an Instagram account. Yes, I have a TikTok account. And I even have a freaking Threads account. I mean, you name it, I have those accounts. But they are all placeholders. And I put content up on those sites. But there's a case where I use automation. I use Opus Clip. So I chop up a lot of our meetings and I'll schedule it out to 4 different social media platforms. That's the extent I put into other social media platforms. LinkedIn? 5+ hours every single day. So that's one choice that I did make. Everything else, I wish I could say it was a very deliberate, but it's day by day. Sometimes I'll scroll on TikTok for 20 minutes and sometimes it's an hour plus. And that sucks. And I always feel like shit afterwards. Like, what did I just do? Why did I waste my time? I need to read a book, right? But the more, I guess one solution I would put into that is I'm a big believer in habit building. I'll take habits over motivation any day of the week, right? And I tend to think that motivation results from the right habits. I'm also big on routines, not scheduling, routines, right? And knowing that, hey, from 6 to 10, this is where my brain is. And from 10 to 11, I'm at the gym. And when I come home, I'm going to eat lunch. And then from 12 to 6, this is where my brain is. And it changes every day, but it's about being in a certain mode, I think. So I wish I had a specific answer in terms of how to cure one's relationship to social media. But I think that cure lies in the fact that if you are getting your intended outcome from that relationship, then it's a beneficial relationship. Unfortunately, most people's intentional outcomes are, I want to be entertained. Yeah. I want my dopamine fix. That's when you go wrong. My intended outcome is to build an incredible community of people that are learning and getting better. And when that's what's focused in my brain, it makes it a hell of a lot easier to use those platforms the way that I know that they should be used. But again, there's a time and place for just chilling and scrolling and relaxing, right? Like I always say, sometimes doing nothing is the best something you can do, right? Everybody needs a break. Totally. Everybody needs to detox and get the hell away. But yeah, man, when it's game time for me, the brain is very focused on one thing.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about I'm sure you're in kind of the similar boat, but it feels like we're really busting our asses out here a lot of the time. I'm a hard worker. Oh, yeah. I know you're a hard worker. I get up at 5:30 every day. I'm doing the things I need to be doing. I'm probably done my day if I'm lucky at 6.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do. Very similar.
Right. I'm stealing hours from the morning because I don't want to steal hours from my night because my boys and my fiance deserve my time.
Same deal.
So
yep.
I'm always trying to rob time, and usually that robbing of time is before everyone wakes up. And there's something really magical about that 5:30 a.m. moment. I absolutely love it, and I wasn't a morning person, and I became one out of necessity. But now I love it, and I think it comes with that internal drive, right? We're both incredibly internally driven people, and I think on a certain level there has to be something bigger that you're working towards, right? Like with me, you're right. I want to build a huge community in the business development space. I want to help a whole lot of entrepreneurs, a whole lot of business development people do better than I did, because when I came into this space, there was nothing for us. There wasn't a book. There wasn't anything. I would learn the whole thing on my own, and now we teach it. And, I see you doing the same thing, saying like, here, I had to learn this stuff the hard way. Let me save you years and I will teach you how to do this. We'll work through the challenges that I went through as an entrepreneur, as somebody growing social media, and we're going to build this amazing community together. But we're driven by those passions, right? I think that's it. Like the secret is you need to figure out your why. What is your why? Why are you doing this? Why are you going to be on social media? And then work backwards from the why.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I also think what's another thing that's important is that why doesn't have to be something you were like born to do, right? You know how some people they're born to swing a baseball bat. Some people are born to sing, right? I wasn't born to do anything. I wanted to be a pro tennis player at one point in my life, and I was a decent athlete. But I'll tell you one thing I was born for. It was to never have a boss, right? And that much I knew. I never wanted authority, right? And not in a mean way. I had plenty of bosses that were nice. I just never liked being told what to do because I wanted the freedom to choose for myself. And so when I quit my job, because I got to say, my first 6.5 years out in the real world, corporate world, whatever, I didn't work nearly as hard as I was capable of working. I didn't.
Sure.
I was always pretty good at my job and excelled decently. And so I was always safe. I wouldn't get fired or anything like that. And I could make a living. But I never understood what it took to put everything I had into something. I just didn't. I understood, but I wasn't doing it. And when I left my job, it was like a switch went off. And for the last 17 years, my brain's just been like, go, 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 in a good way, not a bad way, in a good way. And so whether that thing is not having a boss, financial freedom, more time with your kids, whatever that thing is, obviously that's a why, right? That usually can drive activity and action. And passion for that matter. I believe that passion, just like motivation, tends to be a result often. Some of us are born with this natural talent or passion for something, but you'd be surprised how many people become passionate about something once they become good at it.
Yes.
While in the beginning hating it, right? So passion, I think, is definitely can be a byproduct of hard work, of energy, of action. And so, and what's nice is when you can revive that in a way every however many years, right? So like, I never thought I would be done with the websites. Like I never, not that I'm done, but like I never thought that they would not be primary in my business life. Yeah. But I have rekindled that exact same fire I had when I left my job and was my own boss that very first day and worked endlessly. That energy is right back, which is great. And I see that lasting this next decade, and that'll be my hopefully final hurrah, right? But I don't ever see myself fully stopping or not being involved. And we can go off in the next 5 hours about I don't believe in retirement and all that kind of stuff, which I don't. I consider myself retired by my own definition, which is doing what I want, when I want, with who I want, and having the means to do so, right? You mentioned your family. I can guarantee you this. I can already tell this about you, and I know this about myself. You may work or be up from 5:30 and grind away till 6, but at a moment's notice, you'll stop what you're doing if something's going on with your family or your kids or your fiance, and you'll take the time out of your day to do whatever. Like I've been in my pool 4 times this week during the day, right? Because I have that option. I have that ability to do that just because I don't care. All right, well then I'll work till 8 if I have to. You know what I mean? It doesn't, and that to me is the freedom of being an entrepreneur and the freedom of making your own hours. Obviously, it's a bunch of horse shit that like, hey, you can get away with working 1 hour a day. Like, yeah, technically I probably could, but I would be miserable. I really would be miserable if I wasn't driven towards something and doing something. And many people would argue like, well, you just don't have enough interest in your life. Really? There's no fucking way I would enjoy sitting on a beach all day, every day. Like, there's just no way.
Yeah.
I go on vacation. I get antsy to come home within 3 days every single time. Give me as many coladas and blue water as you can. It's going to get old, man. There's got to be, and this is what, purpose, why that has to be there in my life. Otherwise it's just too freaking boring. And now I feel very aligned with that and just want to keep pressing forward. It's not about an end. It's not about a dollar amount. It's just about like living. And it's like, if you're not living with some sort of desire to do something, be something, help someone, whatever, that to me is what makes life stagnant and boring. I can't sit around and watch TV all day. I love watching movies, man. I do. I love watching TV. I love, whipping out a bowl of popcorn. But if I'm doing it for 8 hours, yeah, I'm going to feel like shit and be angry at myself and not want to do it anymore.
Well, and I always encourage people who are on the fence to like take that leap. Like if you're on the fence about starting your own business and, you've been working a career for a long time, it might be, just like Nat's saying, it might be that kick in the ass that you need to really find your purpose. I think a lot of people are just lost because we're fed a line that you can just work somewhere and get your paycheck every 2 weeks and not worry about anything. But you're right. It's like there's a part of us that's lost in that.
Big time. And for those thinking about like quitting a job or anything like that, like I'm also a big proponent and advocate of not being dumb and just quitting your job with no bank account, nothing saved. Like be practical, be smart. When I quit, I had 6 months of savings and my then girlfriend was working and we had an apartment in New York City. And granted, I was a little worried, but I had a little bit of runway. But what I think Kelly's talking about is at some point you gotta step off the ledge. And at some point you have to put yourself involved in that situation that will in some way push you a little bit. Granted, you have to push yourself first to get there. But, something I'll always say about, hey, if you're working and you really dream of going off on your own, you can't treat a side hustle like a side hustle. You got to treat it like a business. It's just part-time, but it ain't no side hustle. I don't like the word side hustle. I never have, because it's an additional form of revenue that you need to take seriously, especially if you want it to turn it into a full-time source of revenue. Right. So whether that's an hour a day or 5 hours a day, you got to commit. That's why I always tell people, I'm like, look, if you're putting an hour, 2 hours a day, you will get out of that 9 to 5 if you really stick to it and dedicate yourself to it. I did. Right. I'm no more special than anybody else. And other people can as well. So, yeah.
Totally. Well, and let's just lead right into it. You've built a community for people just like the ones we're talking to right now. Let's talk about Brand Built.
Sure. So Brand Built was the inception of myself and my partner, Darren Mass. And I got to know Darren because I was on his podcast. And his podcast is called I Took a Hike. And he would go on hikes with founders and entrepreneurs. So we went on this like 3-hour badass hike, which scared the shit out of me at some points. And I was not wearing hiking shoes. I didn't know, but it was like a little much more than my level of hiking. I mean, I'm used to like flat ground and just like walking.
Yeah.
The way up was fun. The way down was not cool. And so we really hit it off. And he had been doing coaching, same as me, business coaching. But he was very successful prior to that. He ran his own telecom company and sold it for quite a bit of money, $40 million back in 2018. And so after 2000, he had to stay for a year. He sold it to a public company. He stayed for, I think it was a year. I'm not sure. And then right after that, he went into coaching. He went to business coaching. But funny enough, he went into this phase of knowing he didn't really have to work again. He got depressed. So this is a great follow-up to what you and I were just talking about. My own business partner was like fully depressed because he was doing nothing all day and hated it. So he picked up coaching, started coaching people on their businesses. So we went on this hike, got along really well, decided, maybe we'll do something. Who knows? We had a couple of ideas, couple things we were throwing around, and they involved tech that was really expensive. So we tried to find some developers for equity. None of them would bite. So we kind of shelved it. And it was in the realm of coaching. It was like kind of like an online network thing where you would connect people to coaches like around the in certain fields. And so that didn't work out. And then I got on a conversation with someone on LinkedIn, and we were talking about coaching, and the guy says to me, "Have you ever done a community?" I was like, "No, I've heard too many people burn out. I've heard too many bad stories about communities." He's like, "Well, why don't you just do it with a partner?" I was like, "Maybe that could make sense." And so I approached Darren, and he's like, "Hell yeah, let's do it." And I was like, "Okay, well, we'll put up a course and we'll do weekly calls and let's give it a go." So we went on the school platform, which we found to fit the most in terms of user experience. And it had a very similar feel to LinkedIn, just in terms of like liking and commenting and chatting with people.
Yep.
There's Mighty Networks and Circle, and we were looking at other ones, but we figured, what the hell? $99 a month, and you could start it in 5 minutes. Like literally, it was in 5 minutes. I had to scramble to put together the course because that was from scratch. So that was a little bit of a pain, but it was all happening as we were growing. So what we did was we basically had, an initial group of like 8 to 10 people. They were all free members, our founding members, right? And we grew it to 20 like really fast. It was like a day or two. It was all like people we knew. And we just off we went. And this is no different than any other entrepreneurial endeavor. I'm learning as I go, man. Like I'm learning as I go. So we've gone from, that initial, our first meeting was January 31st of 2024. So since that time, we're now at 164 members. We've doubled our rates, which is great. We're pretty much picking up like a new member every day. But the way that it's all run just changed so much, because I initially thought this was going to be a very course-driven community where like, everyone would sign up for the course. Turns out everybody's signing up for the meetings, and everybody's signing up for the support, and everybody's really signing up. Darren made a very good point to me the other day. He goes, "The product is us. It's not our courses. Product is our expertise and what we bring to the table in terms of our coaching and our business acumen." And so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, people get LinkedIn help. They get business help. They get support. And I mean support in every way possible. I don't shy away from the word support group. We got people that are lonely, that are freaking out, that are scared of what they're doing, and they need to share that. I think that's a critical component to the entrepreneurial journey, right? Is the fact that you are not alone, and that you can talk about how scared you are. It's important. And it's really developed into that. And so, but typically if someone will reach out to me for the community, it's very LinkedIn centric. There's no question, because every person in our community has a LinkedIn profile. Most of them are creators. And so there is that common thread. So there is a course, right, that I put together. It's a 12-week LinkedIn course, very similar to like a Justin Welch type of course, although I'd put mine up against his any day of the week, or anyone for that matter. It's very different in nature. And then, there's another course on there. It's like a productivity course. But the real draw, it's the discussion boards and it's the meetings. You miss, like, we joke around a ton. When we introduce someone, I have my little thing every time someone joins. I ask them before they join, "What's your favorite movie?" Then I post a funny GIF of a scene from the movie, just to give them a warm welcome. And we'll razz somebody. We'll haze people. It's fun, And we just have a blast in there. We have a really good time.
Yeah.
And Darren and I have effectively shut down our one-to-one coaching practices. And just recently, only in the last 2 weeks, have we started providing that to our community. So if somebody wants to do a group, we'll do groups of 5, and Darren and I will run those groups. If somebody wants individual coaching, they can choose 2-to-1. Darren and I will coach them, or they could choose Darren or myself, and that'll be a 1-to-1 arrangement. Obviously, those prices are higher than the community. Community's $195 a month. It used to be $100, and we found that, again, learning on the fly. I never knew, right? Like
Sure.
at $100 a month, we were getting like credit card cancellations and rebellious community members who thought they could do it better, and they decided to leave and try to take people from our group, and all kinds of stuff that we've been learning.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
by the way, wherever you are out there, I know that your group is still sitting at a very low number and you haven't really grown, and it's leaving us. But, it's been a lot of fun. And I can tell you right now, I mean, we're literally only like not even 6 months in, and it's going to be real different in a year. And one of the things that have promised, or I want to keep my promise as much as I can, is right now I'm very available to people, right? So like I get people reaching out to me all the time, and one of my biggest assets that people always say is like, dude, I don't know how you get back to me so quickly. Da 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 da. That is one area that I want to stay very, very steadfast on, that we don't want to change, which is like, okay, well, as these numbers grow, how much attention can I really give people? And so right now I feel like 300 is probably our max in terms of where our personal attention is going to be able to go. And at that point, I would do one of two things. We'd either stop, shut off the group, regroup, figure out how we'll grow, or before that time, and my guess is it'll be the latter. Somewhere around 250, we're going to look for someone else, right, as we continue to grow.
Okay.
So it's a really fun group to have. And you and I had talked about this a little bit. Like, communities just aren't delivering, in my opinion, as much as they probably should. And so that is one of the main reasons we even started one. It's like, wow, what if there was a place where people had 4 coaching calls a week, $200 a month, an obscene amount of personal attention? That doesn't really exist. It doesn't really exist out there. So we decided to do that, and that's where I am, and hopefully will be for a number of years.
Nah, that sounds absolutely amazing. Honestly, the value there seems amazing. And I'm sure there's people listening who want to join. How can they join Brand Built?
So every person who joins has to talk to me or Darren first. That's how we keep the quality of members really high. So yes, you can join directly on the website, but I could tell you right now, we've had like 2 sneak by where they actually just found the site and joined. Not that it's hard to find. But even so it's like school.com/brandbuilt, BRANDBUILT. And then you could / again, and then about, right? And if you read the about section, you scroll down, it says, schedule a free demo. And that's a call with me personally. And we have a 1-to-1 talk for a half hour. I give you a demo, takes 10 minutes, and then ask questions in the next 20. And usually most people will sign up either, on the line with me, or, in the next day or week or month, or I don't even care, like whatever it is. Or if you look on my LinkedIn page, there's always links to setting appointments with me. It's very old school, man. We don't mess around. Like it's not like, hey, check out my newsletter and sign up for my course. It's not like that. It's like, hey, we really want to make sure that people want to do this, that we're interested in them, that they're interested in us. And like, I think there's not enough of that in the world anymore, as far as I'm concerned. There needs to be some exclusivity in the world. And when you look at the community model moving forward, and you said it yourself, people are looking for real personal connection. Well, my prediction, and this is what I'm literally betting my own livelihood and money on, is the fact that while platforms like LinkedIn or Instagram or Pinterest or anything, whatever, it doesn't matter, anything with 1 billion users plus, those are platforms, in my opinion, to build your own. And they need to be embraced as such. TikTok is a place for you to be seen. to grow whatever it is you want to grow. And I understand that LinkedIn, in terms of a profit model for Microsoft, right? Obviously, their goal is to get as many people as possible to be on the platform for as much as possible. But at the same time, it behooves them to also push and stress that, hey, this is a place where you can build your business. This is a place where you can do all this kind of stuff. And so what I see happening over the next decade really is a rise of these micro communities where you have your tribe, where you have found the people that you really want to be in contact with on a daily basis. And so we're just doing that manually. That's how I see it. So yeah, while we have these platforms with billions of users, I think the point of these platforms is to grow your own platform. And that as much as they need users to be on there 24/7 to make their revenue, they should also be pushing the fact that, hey, this is a place for you to build your own home. And that's why I think, and I'm betting on in the next 10, 15 years, that things like micro communities are going to be significant. And you can essentially go to a place where you've got 1,000 of your people. And that's effectively what we're building, but we're doing that manually, one at a time, one conversation at a time, one member at a time. It doesn't have to be through a newsletter or a course or any of that kind of stuff. It's just flat out talking to people that are like you, that have similar goals, that want to be successful. And that's what our community is really about.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is the future. And, it's kind of the first year into it. Like, I'm really seeing the growth of community right now. But I agree with you. I think it is the future. And I think you guys are on point to make that choice. And I think it will be about how do you provide value at a cost that people can afford? Because like me and you both know, one-on-one coaching, as amazing as it is, there's no way to do it cost effectively.
That's one of the things that I think that like people can't really match in terms of what we're doing, is the fact that, hey, we've got 4 group coaching calls a week. And it's like under $200 a month, right?
Yeah.
Whereas most coaching is, $3,000 plus a month.
Yeah. So how does, walk me through a group coaching session? Like, what do these typically look like? Obviously, you're working with quite a few people. You said you well over 100 members. How do you even facilitate coaching in that type of scenario? What is the most effective way you found to do it?
Sure. So right now, it's still very easy to manage, right? So technically, there's 164 members. Not all those members are on every single call, right? Obviously, not everybody can make it. We run them at 1 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Thursday. One of the days it's at 12. So on average, we get somewhere between 15 and 20 participants. And with a call that lasts an hour, that's ample time to answer questions. All of our meetings are pretty much collaborative QA oriented type meetings, but we do have a specific format and way of running each one. So on Mondays, I run meetings by myself, and those are a lot more LinkedIn intense meetings. Any questions you got on LinkedIn? I don't like using the word expert, but I'm probably our resident guy who knows about LinkedIn pretty well. And so that'll be focused on that. Tuesdays, we typically pick like a topic. So this week, for example, we picked the word persistence. And so I started off going on like a 10-minute story about persistence. And it winds up just getting into a lot of questions, people sharing their own stories, own anecdotes. Wednesdays are like, we call them community chat. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays, Darren and I host. And Wednesdays, our last Wednesday call was very deep. It wound up being very support group oriented, right? But a lot of times they could be about philosophies in your own business, or just questions. Again, same thing, questions on LinkedIn, all that. Thursdays, Darren runs those by himself, and those are highly business oriented questions and topics. So it could be scaling a business, acquiring a business, all the little, ends that go along with running business at a small business level as well as a corporate level. Darren's done both. So yeah, that's kind of how we run the meetings. And as it gets larger in scale, we'll see. We might do a format where it's like the first 10 people get their questions answered and everybody else is watching. I don't really quite know what we'll do. But as of right now, we just use Zoom and everyone does the hand raise function and we get to everybody's questions. And so far, we haven't missed any questions, which has been great. an hour is usually enough.
Wow. Dude, sounds like you've got it all figured out. And it sounds like you're going to be planning more content than most people. That's for sure.
One nice thing about 4 meetings is you got 4 hours of like reels and shorts that get chopped up. Now, I'm not going to go crazy. I literally only post 1 a day on the internet, even though I could schedule like 30, but I'm not going to do that. I don't want to like overload my accounts, but maybe I should try it one day and see what would happen if I literally posted like 30 things.
It really is trial and error. Let's figure out what works. Cause I think all of us are playing in this playground, trying to figure out, not just with, not just with you, with LinkedIn, with us, with Spotify and all these others, trying to figure out like, what do they want? How do we get them to promote us?
Yeah, I agree.
Nat, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you for spending some time with us and educating our listeners. And I do wish you the best of luck. And dude, I love your LinkedIn. Don't quit. You're killing it. I love the shirts. They're so motivating. And if there's ever anything that we can do to support you, just let me know.
Yep, vice versa, man. Really appreciate you having me on. Thanks a lot, Kelly.
You're very welcome. Until next time, this has been the Business Development Podcast, and we will catch you on the flip side.
This has been the Business Development Podcast with Kelly Kennedy. Kelly has 15 years in sales and business development experience within the Alberta oil and gas industry and founded his own business development firm in 2020. His passion and his specialization is in customer relationship generation and business development. The show is brought to you by Capital Business Development, your business development specialists. For more, we invite you to the website at www.capitalbd.ca. See you next time on the Business Development Podcast.
Hey, rock stars, Hypervac is back, and it's upping the cleaning and restoration game once again. Originating in the 1980s as a humble family-run air duct cleaning service in southern Alberta, Canada, Hypervac Technologies has evolved into a global powerhouse in duct cleaning equipment. Their product lineup boasts powerhouse solutions such as the Revolution 360 vacuum and groundbreaking tools such as the Cobra View camera system, all designed to enhance your efficiency. But here's the kicker. Hypervac Technologies dominates the competition with their top-selling non-PTO air duct truck in North America. Hypervac is now back with a bold new claim. Hypervac Technologies now keeps stock on all major products for immediate worldwide shipping, offering overnight freight to the USA and Canada, plus everything they offer is proudly built in North America. And it's not just about cleaning ducts. It's about elevating indoor air quality because after all, your ducts are your lungs. Their expertise extends far beyond North America with worldwide shipping available. With over 4 decades of industry excellence, Hypervac Technologies is your ultimate partner for reaching new heights in the cleaning and restoration business. So what are you waiting for? Visit their website at www.hypervac.com.